wondering actually, with the next round for PIP coming in with the indefinite awards, how chaotic do you think it's going to be with staff shortages and everything?
I'm glad you've asked the question because it'll be chaotic. I don't think there's any doubt. The cuts in the DWP have been absolutely massive. I was told yesterday that the civil servants at the DWP weren't necessarily expecting the Tories to win, and they've already been told that they may have to make 17% cuts year on year for the next 5 years. It's already a department where tens of thousands of jobs have gone, and you know yourself, anyone who uses the service, how much we're struggling. The real story behind universal credit is that it is chaotic, and the union is hopefully about to move to an industrial action ballot involving our members in universal credit, which I hope we do that and people vote for it. So I think it is going to be chaotic. And I just do want to say, as I've had the question, that PCS are absolutely proud to want to work with WOW campaigners, DPAC, all those people who believe that our benefit system is wrong. And our members have been asked to do things that frankly is making some of them ill, and they can see that there are people who have killed themselves because of benefit sanctions. It's pretty demoralising stuff. We've got very good policy about opposing benefit sanctions, and the Unite Community Day of Action we were really proud to support, and I want to continue for us to see that unity, and just make the point therefore that I hope people do accept that low paid workers in the DWP don't have the luxury to just say I'm not doing it or they get sacked. And so we have to find a way of working collectively with our union, and I know we've worked well, and I hope we can carry on doing it, but chaotic will be my prediction.
I've got 5 people on the HMRC team dealing with all the work and pay rights, minimum wage, comparison of the whole country. Is that right?
I don't know whether it's 5. But what I do know, it is absolutely chronically under-resourced, and one of the points that we make is you can have the best laws going, but if you haven't got people to enforce them, you're stuffed. I mean, it says a lot about the government's approach has been to cut right back, not just on enforcement, but also in terms of chasing those big tax avoiders. And it has really cut back on numbers overall. You know, I'll let you into a story, I don't know whether I should tell you this or not, but I had to contact the tax office myself. You'd be reassured that I don't get any favourable treatment. And I rung twice. And it took me 57 minutes on the first call and 38 minutes on the second call. And I can see people nodding because that will be the experience that others have had. And this whole idea of call centres that are understaffed, the depersonalised service, it drives you nuts. Now, as it turned out, I had a query just about what I had to put in a tax form. But if you ring in about the minimum wage, in the way that you've described, or if you ring in about your benefits, then for some people, this is making the difference between, you know, being able to eat, being able to put the heating on. And it's such a depersonalised, under-resourced service, it's a scandal. And if you look at yesterday's FT, the government have said they want to make a further 100,000 job cuts in the civil service next 5 years. The civil service is already the smallest it's been since the Second World War. So the chaos, the fact there's 5 people on such an important job isn't going to get better anytime soon. And what I would be interested in doing is every time we hear an anecdote like that, I think it would be really great if we were able to make something of it, because it's a common cause between a service user in this case and the union arguing for more resource and for more staffing, because they're the most powerful stories is when you can quantify them.
I mean, I can send you the day, time,
that would be good.
You know,
How people are going to get, how the unions themselves are going to get together to defend themselves against the legislation.
Can I just say that the air traffic control strike in America, if you go on a certain TUC training course for the senior leaders, it's actually done as a case study, and the conclusion being it shows you can't win. So you can see I didn't pass that test.
Sorry to have given it to you.
No. I think that in the UK, in the coalition government, I mean, I'm on record as saying it loads of times, John's heard this millions of times, that the unions failed. The unions were not up to the mark. Absolutely. That when the history books are written and we look at what was done by a coalition government, the response of the unions was woeful. We got to a high water mark in 2011 where we actually did have 2 million people on strike, 29 unions. I'm proud to say largely led by my own union and 3 education unions calling a strike in June. that changed the debate in this country, that meant people could no longer really duck it, and we got to a really great strike. Now, unfortunately, 3 weeks later, that strike crumbled. We went from the high point to the lowest point in a matter of weeks. And what that did do is open up the differences that exist between the leaderships in many of the unions. I don't believe there's any differences between the members. My view is whether you're a teacher, a nurse, a bin collector, or working in a benefit office, you all had common cause to ensure everybody's pension was a decent one. Right? There was no, it might have been jealousy or difference between the schemes. People just wanted everybody to win. But the leaders of the union were picked off. And that had an effect. PCS called a strike 6 months later, and we went from 29 unions to, I think there was 3 unions. It was us, Unite, and UCU. So we tried to keep that going, and it was bruising. We've carried a motion at our conference today to say precisely what you're saying. We haven't used the word general strike, but what we talk about is to be mass coordination of action across the unions, because we know what's coming. What we've said at the TUC is the Queen's speech is the 27th of May. John tells me that we should expect a basket of the most appalling attacks on all of us. And what we've said at the TUC last week is it's all well and good having an election analysis. I'm for having an analysis, but actually what I want is an action plan very quickly after the 27th of May. That means unions have got to have a very open and honest discussion to try and agree, I think, to do more together. Our approach wants to be to that, not to point fingers or call anybody names, is to say let's please work together, because the last 4 years was tough, the next is going to be much worse. Now I am optimistic that members and unions will see the sense in all of that. It's quite simple, and your question really points it out. If you all go on strike together, by definition you must be stronger than if you're all doing it separately. We have found it's harder to do it separately, but it doesn't mean we don't bother. I mean, Candy's going to tell you about an inspirational strike. If you're at our conference, I tell this really lovely story where we have members who work for the Queen in Windsor Castle, and they were not paid a living wage, and they were expected to volunteer for duties unpaid, and they put up with it for years. And this year they said we've had enough, and they asked us to ballot them. We balloted them for industrial action. I think it was a 90% yes vote, 84% turnout. And they didn't take 1 minute strike action, and they've had a living wage backdated 6 months, and people under 21 grand got a 7.5% pay rise. If you can win in the Queen's gaff, then that should inspire us all. So we shouldn't not do things if we can't get everybody on board, but we should argue for what I think is needed. But my final point on this, and that's the last question, is to say that it was tough last time. If the Tories change the laws, which they tell us they will on union ballots, and impose thresholds, then the reality is of, I think, 120 strikes across our movement in the last government, I think it was fewer than 20 that would pass the thresholds. Doesn't mean you can't do it, and I don't agree with union leaders who go up and say it makes strikes impossible, because I think if you sign up to say it's impossible to get 51% vote, then you may as well pack up. It's not impossible, but it's hard. The RMT, the first national transport strike next week, and they sailed past the Tories. 80% yes vote, 60% turnout, so it can be done. My worry is those leaders who are not keen, and weren't keen before, will have an extra excuse. Because many of them may well be able to say, well, maybe we'd like to, but we can't do it now. And so PCS today took a decision to say, that when we look at our own ballots, nationally, we haven't breached those thresholds in the last 10 years. We're doing strikes like Candy's, but we haven't nationally. And the challenge that we agreed at our conference was, that means you can either not have a strike, you can have an illegal strike, or you can beat the threshold. And we are determined to make changes in the union to ensure we can beat the threshold. And if we can do it, I can't see why everybody can't. And if everybody signs up for that, I have no doubt that the Tories would be shaken if they faced coordinated strikes across the trade union movement. And not only that, it would inspire all the welfare campaigners, the people for a better NHS, because nothing is better than a win. And the thing about Windsor Castle, I said it today, you go to Windsor Castle now, right, you talk to these people, and they are just buzzing. They're proud of their union, and most importantly, they're proud of themselves, because they thought, nobody thought we could do it, and you know what, we did it, and we won. get in there quick to Windsor Castle, and you won't just get a tour, but you might get a free lunch of our members. Who are very happy with themselves and quite rightly so. So I agree with the premise of your question.
Right, thanks very much to Mark. It's really great, and thanks for